Good Packer Nation afternoon, guys and dolls out there. We are, it's Sunday, so the weekend is coming to a close. However, it was a good weekend. A little bit of Packer preseason action that we talked about yesterday, and we only have to wait till Thursday to see these guys play again. So it's a nice way to space it out. It looks good. So who's out there? Who's with me? Time for Packer Nation roll call. Let me know who you are and where you're at. We'll give you a shout out right now. While we do that, I have a couple names I have to mention because I promised. We did our game predictions even on the preseason games because basically everybody wanted to do it. So there were a couple of really, first of all, Nate Volm, who was very, very close. He had Packers winning 20-13 on that. So that's pretty dang close. Good job, Nate. And then also Kevin Hefner, who pretty much nailed it on the noggin. So he was the winner. I was pretty sure I had seen somebody who had really just nailed it. And Kevin Hefner, you're the man. Way to go. That is our prediction. Shout out because he really, really nailed it. All right, Joey is here. Good to see you. Huero, Manuel, Jonathan, Jeff, and Rick. Good to see you guys on board. We got North Iowa and New York. All right, good to see you guys out in New York holding up the fort. Spencer is here from Louisville, Kentucky, too. We got Noah from Salem, Oregon, as you can see. Good to see you guys on board. And I am here forewent. I don't know how you say that, but I didn't have my coffee this morning, so I'm not a real fan of these things, but I will be slurping on one of these a little bit because I just need a little pick-me-up. But guys, Packer football is back in full swing. We got Kevin from Texas. We got Tammy is here. Rick, they're all just rolling in, so welcome everybody. And yeah, we talked about the preseason game yesterday, but I think there's really more to be said. I think with Joe Callahan, he really separated himself in his performance. However, there were some things we were kind of missing, I think, but not so much on the offense. I think the offense looked pretty good. Defense looked fairly good. A little bit of we saw RG3 get a little bit of rhythm on offense, throwing the ball around a little bit. And that is part and parcel, I think, of the way that we're trying to rotate people in. We know Dom Capers has expressed that as one of his priorities during the preseason games is to go ahead and put players in situations that show their versatility, kind of throw them into the pool, so to speak, and see if they can swim. And so we do see a lot of that, and that's just fine. I wasn't concerned about our defense at all. I was very happy with how Blake Martinez played. Had a nice stick, and but then also the rest of the defense really seemed to be pretty good. Kenny Clark. I didn't think Kenny Clark was outstanding, but again, it's the first preseason game. There was a time or two I thought his shoulder pads were a little too high, his arms a little bit too outstretched. When you see that, what you're basically looking at is a kid who is trying to remain gap sound. He's fighting a double team probably for the first time in the NFL situation, and when he's up and his arms are out, that means he's basically holding off to try to get a good read and maintain his gap soundness. Now, this is important, but we want to be able to see him actually drive double teams back. We saw B.J. Raji have a little bit of an ability to do that from time to time. And again, Kenny Clark has plenty of time to develop. We've got several more preseason games, and I'm really excited. And he did do some really good things. Had a few pretty good few pretty good plays. Steve is saying Janis isn't practicing. No other update than that. Yeah, Jeff Janis has a broken hand, and it's up in the air as far as how long it's going to take him to get back on the field at all. If you were like me, you missed him in the special teams because the coverage and protection units I thought they were a little bit sloppy, and I didn't see anybody really stand out. I think it was Chris Banjo had a nice stick on one of the coverage unit plays, but there wasn't much that I was super excited about with the coverage and protection. Now, on the other hand, the punting game, that duel looked fantastic, and I thought Mortel was outstanding. And, of course, when Mason Crosby kicks 254-yarders, there's no question that he's ready to go. He's been pretty much money all the way through the preseason, had the two blocked kicks in family night, but still has been money. Came back with 254-yarders, and I think it could be important down the road for the Packers, say, we have a game in which the offense stumbles. So it could be important. Yeah, so the Packers are off and running. We got the Raiders coming up next on Thursday. And today I did a post, and I want to talk about that a little bit because I did a post that was basically an early read on the strategy when we play the Bears, because I watched their game. I'm watching the Vikings now. And I think maybe I titled that a little bit weird. Basically what that was is looking at the way the Bears played and making some early drawing some early conclusions about how their offseason has panned out for them and their readiness at this time. And of course, I framed it in the motif of, let's set up a strategy. If we were to take them on today, what would we want to do? What do I think would be effective? So I did that. But basically it is more about just where are the Bears at right now? We want to talk about where the Vikings are at. And of course we have to pay attention to the Detroit Lions as well, even though I think, and I said this in the post, as far as teams who are kind of pick your poison offenses, I think the Packers are the only one right now in the NFC North. I think they're going to come back strong. Their offense is going to be difficult. Hey, thanks, Chrissy. I got this up at family night. Yeah, I thought this was different, and so I picked it up, and I like it too. All right. But yeah, the Bears, they still have a team. Yeah, they do. And here's the thing about the Bears. They had a really good offseason, actually. But then when the preseason came around, what happens is they lose their prospective starting center, and now they're in there trying to figure out who's going to snap the ball to Jay Cutler for them. So you can imagine, now you add to that there's no more Matt Forte there, and the Bears, I think, have taken a big hit with that. If you got shakeup on the offensive line, Clay Matthews and Julius Peppers will be champing at the bit to get after Jay Cutler, and it's not going to be fun, I don't think, for him. They didn't look like they had built any continuity. Of course, when a center is just starting to get his feet under him, that's really exactly what you expect, because it all begins at that position. So yeah, I think the Bears have kind of taken a step back in my estimation. Early on, I was saying don't sleep on these guys because they had a good offseason, and I thought that center that they picked up, and I can't pronounce his name half the time, but I thought that center they picked up was going to be a good acquisition, and now he is out for the season with an ACL. So Packer Nation, we know how that goes when you lose an important player to ACL in the preseason or before even the preseason games begin, and just how disappointing that can be and the kind of domino effect it can have for an offense. So if you're talking about the center position, it doesn't get as much, it isn't talked about as much, but it is incredibly important. And the Bears look like they are going to struggle to get that shored up and get their offense back on the same page. So yeah, the Bears, it looks like it could be difficult for them. They did pick up Danny Trevathan in the offseason. They have a couple linebackers, I think, that can run with tight ends, et cetera, et cetera. They do have a little bit of an ability to cover. However, I think, if we played the Bears tomorrow, Jared Cook's going to have a heyday in the seam on those guys. So it looks pretty good for the Packers. I think the Packers, like I was saying, are the one team right now that has a proven pick-your-poison offense. Now, obviously, last year we took a step back. We didn't look like that. We faltered. But again, everybody in Packer Nation knows that we've got Jordy Nelson back. We've got Mike McCarthy calling the plays again. We've got Jared Cook. Aaron Rodgers looks sharp. Eddie Lacy looks great. Richard Rodgers dropped a few pounds. This is looking like the offense that we've come to expect out of the Green Bay Packers. Now, the other team that you would want to talk about, of course, when you're talking about pick-your-poison offenses is the Minnesota Vikings, who are the current NFC North champions. However, I think they have yet to prove that they can be a pick-your-poison offense. Right now, they've got Adrian Peterson, and they pound the rock, and teams are having to stack the box, and then they're able to throw out of that. Now, that's not a bad combination, but I still see them, that they have to prove themselves, that they are, and they brought weapons on in the offseason with their draft, but they still have to prove themselves that they are actually a pick-your-poison offense. I think, from what I've seen so far, the Vikings are looking to get their tight ends involved early and often. I believe they do want to take reps off Adrian Peterson, who is now over 30. He's getting up there, even though last year was yet another phenomenal season for him. Got to give Adrian Peterson credit for being just a phenomenal running back, and there's just no two ways about it. No matter what you think about his character or the issues he had, the year-long suspension, he came back from that and he played some great football. Now, the Packers have been able to have Adrian Peterson's number from time to time, including last year's playoff game in which he ran 467 total yards. We weren't able to win, or I said playoff game, the last week 17 matchup. We weren't able to win that game, but we were able to take care of Adrian Peterson. So that does tell you that the Vikings are working on that pass offense. They want to see Teddy Bridgewater dial it in. If Teddy Bridgewater was able to connect on a few passes, then I think that he wasn't able to in the game last year, I think the Vikings do have a chance. Hi, Angel. How you doing? I think the Vikings do have a chance to become that pick your poison offense, and that would be that would make them once again this year one of the two teams I think out of the NFC North that are playoff contenders: Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings. I don't think that's changed, so we'll see how it goes, but. Yeah, well, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about today. If you have anything you want to jump on and talk about, I see already predictions for the Raiders game coming in. I will do those Wednesday, not right now. And Phil is mentioning McKinnon too, and we've seen him really flash. And that's another reason, another way in which the Vikings can take a few reps off of Adrian Peterson. I'm expecting, and I'm not, of course, in the loop, you may know a little better, but when you look at a guy like Adrian Peterson and just how valuable he is, it reminds me a lot of Julius Peppers for the Green Bay Packers. The man, he knows exactly what it takes to win when it's important. He knows how to last until the playoffs. He knows how to be a player and make plays when the plays absolutely need to be made. And Julius Peppers, we've seen this year, we're going to get Nick Perry in there and try to take some reps off of him. If I'm on the coaching staff of the Minnesota Vikings, there are discussions going on right now along those same lines as it corresponds to Adrian Peterson. So yeah, McKinnon, of course, is a big part of that picture, but then also Teddy Bridgewater, who has flashed promise, and now with some new weapons, and I think Cordarrelle Patterson is now in a contract year, I believe, this year. That's going to be, if they can get their pass game going and begin to balance it out a little bit, that could be a very difficult offense to deal with even for teams that have fairly solid defenses like the Green Bay Packers. So that's about all I had today. We've got Tiffany on from Anchorage, Alaska. Awesome. I know a few people up there. Yeah, pretty cool. I bet you guys are having some pretty weather. I bet it's gorgeous up there right now. We got Matthew is here. Vikings will beat us week 2, okay? So if you want, you can go thumbs up or angry face if you agree or disagree with Matthew right there. Vikings beating us week 2. I actually think that might sort of split Packer Nation a little bit, and I'm not going to give away my thoughts on that just yet. But I will be talking about and putting up another post that's similar to the one about the Bears, referring to the Minnesota Vikings. And then we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions as well, who are going to be, they seem to be odd man out. They're kind of like the quote-unquote redheaded stepchild of the NFC North right now. Lost Megatron, Matt Stafford, who's he going to be throwing the ball to? They still got Golden Tate, and they picked up the guy from the Browns, I believe it is. Or was it the Bengals? I don't remember, but they look to be a team that's really going to struggle to get back to where they were a couple of years ago. No Ndamukong Suh either. Their defense has not been as stout as it used to be. But we'll see. We'll focus on that when the time comes. So you guys have a great day. And Spencer says, yeah, Patterson might not make the team, Phil is saying, and he has sort of fallen off the radar. He seemed to have fallen out of favor, and I guess that's probably just because he hasn't produced. So, and they've got some young guys coming up, and that's the way it works in the NFL. So we'll see how that goes. Well, you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I will talk to you again tomorrow, but we'll be back to the morning schedule. As usual, on the weekends, I go afternoons just to give you guys a chance to sleep in. And of course, right now, on Sundays, we do this show right about game time so that hopefully by the time games roll around, we can do it in front of the game and talk about actual regular season ball. And of course, on the horizon, Packers versus the Jacksonville Jaguars down in Florida, where we have had a propensity to struggle from time to time, not only with the heat and humidity, but also with winning games. So we'll see how that goes coming up very soon. But of course, we've got the Raiders on the horizon right now, who are another up-and-coming team that looks very good. Their preseason has looked good so far, so I think it is going to be a great matchup as a second game. And then the third game, of course, is when we will truly get, we may see Aaron Rodgers for a series of 2 in this one, and then we'll probably see him for a half in the third preseason game. Well, you guys have a great time. Have a great afternoon. Thanks for the thumbs up, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I appreciate it. If you subscribe, that helps us out a bunch. And we'll catch up with you again tomorrow, so go Pack.